Hey everybody, welcome to day 3 of composing my new song Snake Charmer's Lair. We have, yesterday we worked on some big epic drums for the big section, and today we will flesh that section out a little more. So I will start today by playing what we have so far. So that's all we have so far. Today, I want to flesh out that big part that happens next with some other instruments. Right now, it's just like drums and percussion, but I want to add some more stuff to that. So, let me listen to it. Okay, guess I'll start with some string bass. I imagine we will use that Metropolis arc, cellos and basses. But maybe we'll do the short notes. Maybe we'll have it like... Yeah, let's try that. Okay, I think that's good enough for the writing template. Okay, let's get the next octave up with the Metropolis arc strings. Where's it at? Or we start right here. Okay. Let's go ahead and move this loop point over. I think it will be more handy over here, and it will serve as telling me. Let's record this. Okay. Do some quick cleanup. And copy that over. Okay, so okay, what did the other big part have? We want to do kind of like that, except make it bigger. Okay, so we had high strings, like for violins really, and octaves in that other part. But I don't know that I want to mess with that yet. I kind of want to get the chords good. I was about to say I'm not sure why the harp folder is open. I doubt we need harp for this song, but I don't know. Who knows? We might have like a bridge that's a little softer. Could use some harp. I think it's open because I used acoustic guitar at the first of the song. Actually, I think we can close some of these drum folders for now to make for a little less scrolling, because I've actually done the drums for this part. So with this bigger part, we want some big brass hits, and actually this may be, I'll mess with this Cinebrass Monster Low Brass. And in case you're wondering why you don't actually see my software instruments that I'm using, they're actually hosted on another computer that's connected through an Ethernet port. And I'm running a networking software called Vienna Ensemble Pro. So I'm just kind of connecting to the other side. There's a few programs that I have on here, like the Forest Kingdom, that I got that ethnic flute kind of effects from. It is actually local on my computer, so you will see it pull up. That's just for some kind of licensing reasons. Like I couldn't make it install on both of my computers. Something about it was only like a one license software, some kind of something. Most softwares will actually let you install it on at least 2 computers. But I just run most of my software instruments on another computer to save RAM, because they do use quite a bit of RAM. What did I use on the other side? I don't think that I actually used that Monster Low Brass on the other. I think I used like the Metropolis Arc, maybe Simbasi and tubas. Let's try that. And then I had tubas, like, I think the low octave. Actually, I may, like, what about the Metropolis Arc trombones, up the octave? Would those add to it and keep it kind of similar? I think I want to try that. a whole lot of this thick and epic sound, this thick and epic sounding music is layering. You'll have like a high range thing, or I mean, any big powerful music period, any big thick music period usually gets that thick sound through a lot of layering. Like even like dubstep, like the electronic music like Skrillex and stuff, like his sounds are, a lot of those sounds are multiple layers. Like they'll have like a growly bass that's kind of in the range of an electric guitar, like a mid-range, like brrrr, and it'll have a real interesting kind of character. And then they'll have just some low sub basses kind of hanging out under that provide like the deep sound. So let's try the Symbassos or Symbassi. I think it's Symbassi is the proper way to say it. Yeah, I think that's going to sound good. And this is not taken like the super easy way. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's not just using like the monster low brass patch and just that being the one sound. That sounds great, don't get me wrong, and if you have to work fast, it works. It's excellent for working fast. But I don't know, for this project, I just kind of wanted to create my own brass ensemble from different kind of individual sections of instruments. So far, I've kind of got like all of these low brass sounds are from Metropolis Arc, but I have the tubas in the lowest range. I had the Symbassi in the middle range, and then I added the trombones this time around in the next octave up. Which I think that's kind of cool, because if I started out just using like the monster low brass ensemble, like I'd be done. Like I wouldn't have anywhere to build from the first one. And being I used all these individual sections, I actually can build by adding the trombones this time the next octave up. So it's a good idea to do that sometimes. I don't always do that. Sometimes I do use the full ensemble, and for certain types of sounds, like violins 1 and 2 and octaves, like I tend to use the ensemble pre-recorded that way, because it's some stuff happens in the room that's kind of hard to imitate when you just kind of layer the two sounds together. But for this, I actually kind of think it's cool that I'm kind of building my own low brass ensemble. But let's record these tubas. Oh, and in case you're wondering what I'm doing over here, I actually have a keyboard, and I have a fader controller that has start, stop, and record buttons on it. So I can actually like hit record over here on the physical button on my controller and play my keyboard. Some people program all of this stuff, and I program stuff a little bit, especially if I'm in a rush or if I'm doing electronic sounding stuff. But I don't know, I like to play the keyboard because it just kind of feels like playing an instrument. Like I played guitar, or I play guitar, and I have a lot of experience playing instruments, so I kind of actually like the feel of a keyboard and actually playing something rather than clicking the notes in. But depending on the song, I will click things in, like especially if I'm programming something. Okay, I think that's kind of cool. Are we leaving anything out that we had the last repeat through here? Okay, I know the melody. We don't have any melody yet. Do I want to add anything for the melody? Let's experiment with some stuff on the melody, like some French horns. My play button is not working. I think I actually want to do that. Might bring those high violins back in to double it. But I think this works good for the melody. Alright, just because it kind of bugs me, I'm actually going to go ahead and record some dynamics into this. I actually have my fader controller over here that I mentioned earlier. I can actually control the dynamics and how loud the players played. They kind of recorded these samples at different levels of having the players play at different volumes, and you can actually kind of fade through them with a fader controller or a mod wheel on a keyboard too. Alright, cool. I think that sounds pretty good. I think we do need some strings going under it, though. Some violins. French horns as the lead instrument is like a very that's like a very common thing in modern music, like the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack and The Dark Knight and stuff like that. Like that they use like more French horns as melody, as like how John Williams would tend to use trumpets for melody back in the Star Wars scores and stuff, but it's a lot more common now to, I mean, you will hear a trumpet melody every once in a while now too, but it's a lot more common now to have the French horns play the main melody because they're kind of beefier. Okay, so let's grab these violins. Trying to figure out which octave to play these in. Where was I last time? So that's like... I'm kind of thinking about hopping the octave because we kind of got those French horns in the range that... we got the French horns in the range where the violins were last time. Like, I'm kind of thinking about hopping up the next octave with those. Okay, let's record that. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Okay, I'm kind of considering accenting a few of these French horn notes with some staccatos. This will probably mean I'm going to need another track of those. Why did it drop it in my tuba bus? Let's see, RMA horns. And like I said in the previous video, the only real reason I'm adding another track is so that I can adjust the volume of this one, because I may actually want some short French horns later in the song. And my computer is giving me the beach ball of death. Okay. That's similar. You Apple people know what that beach ball of death is all about. You Windows people think of it as the little hourglass that pops up when you're waiting to do something. It's the same thing. Please forgive the coughing I've been doing in these last couple of videos. I've had a bit of a cold lately. Okay, so pull up. Oh, and that second computer I was telling you about is actually on a monitor above this laptop. So that's what I'm looking up at. 9 horns. We want staccatos. And we want to set the volume so that it just kind of sounds like. Oh, not the sus patch because it's not going to do anything. Okay, so let's determine like which of these. I think just like the first of each phrase is the only place I actually want this. I'm actually gonna write in my notes to add this to the template. Add M-A horns. Because I think this actually works and makes a lot of sense. I actually learned that trick from another composer on YouTube, Blakus. He tends to use staccato notes to accent his long notes a lot. Okay, I actually think that's pretty good for this section. I'm not really sure where to go next for this song. I don't know, I could do a B section. I could do just some way to make it repeat. and make a looping thing out of it. I could make an ending and almost kind of make a trailer music thing out of it. This seems like kind of a video game track, so I'm leaning more towards either B section or looping thing. And I will usually cut loops out of every long track that I make. So let me listen to the whole thing, and I will see what it needs. But it's almost like you kind of have to break the rules with this kind of stuff. I'm a little new to using this scale, I will be perfectly honest, but I heard like a cool track in a game that used this scale. It had a different vibe than this, but it used this scale, and I kind of wanted to write something with this scale. Well, that was wrong. It's like Phrygian. Some people call it Phrygian dominant. Some people call it Phrygian major. It's basically the Phrygian mode, but instead of a minor third, it has a major third. So, yeah, really cool sounding scale. It's got that kind of Middle Eastern sounding thing. I think in Middle Eastern music, there's actually a proper name for it. But, I'm not 100% sure what to call it. I know that some of my teachers would probably call this scale something different than I do. Let's see here. Would a B section work? And I'm almost wondering some stuff about this bigger section. kind of thinking about maybe like a synthetic bass, like kind of just kind of hitting underneath, and I'm kind of trying to decide if it needs some kind of lead-in, like a timpani roll or cymbal roll or something, because it kind of hits kind of suddenly. But I may like that. Like, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. You know, I actually kind of like the vibe of that. Let me determine which piano sounds the best with it. I use several different pianos, and I have a few more that aren't loaded in this template. The one that I've had for the longest amount of time, I actually got this on a deal where I got it for free with my first orchestra library, is the East-West pianos. It was actually recorded in an orchestral hall and probably sounds the most like a traditional orchestral piano. But I also have a few other ones, and for those of you that have the Native Instruments Complete bundle, you have the Giant, and don't let that don't knock the Giant, because I know a lot of people think it's a gimmick, and I've had people tell me, oh, it's a gimmick, and I don't use it, because it's actually, Native Instruments sampled the world's largest piano. Like, somebody built the world's largest piano, and there's a whole video of how they, like, sampled and recorded this thing. And a lot of people just think it's a gimmick. A lot of people don't think it's a good piano, or it's some kind of weird piano, but it's a perfectly good piano, and I use it all the time. It has some good presets in here, like basic Giant works well. Giant pop works good if you're doing like a kind of pop track or hip hop track or something that would be on the radio and not orchestral. There's one called Eternity and Dreamland are kind of cool special effects sounds. And you can also shape the color of it a little bit manually. Like, you have like a tone thing where you can kind of go from soft to hard, which is kind of cool. Like, you can kind of control like kind of how hard it hits the hammers like with a knob, which is cool. You have a little EQ in here that's okay. I think Galaxy Instruments actually designed this thing for the company Native Instruments. The Giant's a good one. I like to use the Giant. Another one that's good is Unicorda. Unicorda is good for really soft music. It's kind of like a felt piano. It's not really what I'm looking for here. But what I'm kind of going for right now, I'm almost kind of feeling a little sort of Trent Reznor-y, like the soundtrack to The Social Network and stuff. I'm actually thinking about layering the Giant with another kind of a synthetic sound, but it's a piano-like sound that it gives some cool characteristics to pianos. Hybrid 2 Project Alpha, the sad piano. I'm thinking about using that. Project Alpha was actually developed by another composer, Daniel James, he's worked on some of the Metal Gear Solid games and some of the Call of Duty games. And he actually developed a sample library of he's a great sound designer, and it's like kind of sound design, kind of synthetic, interesting sounds that are designed to be used with kind of like scoring music and film music and stuff. But this sad piano is really cool to layer with real piano sounds. Maybe not that loudly. Let's kind of fade this in. Alright, well that's kind of cool. Wow, this is going to be 2 tracks recorded at the same time over a large stretch. Kind of thinking about, can I make the Giant a little more like noisy? I know I can do that with Unicorda, which also comes in the Native Instruments Complete Bundle. Fantastic piano. Yeah, like there's some. try to not get too crazy with the pedal noise, because I've actually had customers complain about getting the pedal noise in their stuff. But a little bit of it can kind of be cool, and it can kind of like make people make it seem more like a real piano instead of a sampled one. But hitting wrong notes is not cool like I did just now. Okay, I think I like this part. I think that I will record this in, because this is actually pretty cool. Okay. I think I like that, and I think I'll quantize this because there's a good chance I'm going to loop it. Okay, cool. Here, stretch a little. So transitioning from part to part. So still transitioning into this big part. I want to try a timpani roll going into the big part. I have my choice of the single timpani and Spitfire percussion, or Hans Zimmer percussion actually has these, where did my dock go? There we go. Hans Zimmer percussion actually has some timpani ensembles that can be kind of neat. Let me make sure I'm not recording over this synthetic piano down here. No, okay, cool. Because I don't want that to sound like a timpani roll, or that to play the part of a timpani roll. That would be weird. Sort of cool. Maybe like a cymbal roll to go with it. Maybe like crash cymbals up top. Cool, we might actually have that crash cymbal hit again later in this. Retrospective record is so neat. Okay, so let's go to the synths and let's see if I can find some kind of like synthetic sequenced bass that I could kind of have pulsing under this. Synth basses. Just sub basses. As far as soft synths, I'm a fan of Yuhi Zebra. I'm a fan of several soft synths, but Yuhi Zebra is definitely one that I like a lot. I'm actually going to make a note to add an instance of Zebra in that bus to my template. But you could do these with several different soft synths, even like some of your factory synths that come with the DAW. So the starting sound, I'm pretty sure, is not a bass. Do I want to start over just from scratch for this? Yeah, so maybe turn the arpeggiator on. I think that I could. That doesn't sound much like a bass right now, but it will. One E and 2 E. I think I just wanted like kind of straight notes, but with accents. Trying to decide if I want to actually try to include a sub bass in this. I usually don't have much luck with that, so I tend to do my sub bass separately. Okay, so have a filter envelope here to make it punchy. Okay, so I'm going to put some accents in. I think I am. Yeah, that's how I do it. Except I'm not going to use that much accent. Alright, and then something I usually like to do to synthetic basses like this is hit them with some distortion at the end. And actually, I'm a man of simple taste. I like the stock little Logic distortion too. And some EQ might be nice. Actually, I want to EQ with just a little more color than that. Maybe would the Waves SSL work for this? Maybe? I think I'll actually program this part in too because it's a synth. Except at like a normal velocity, like 80 or so. Okay, so just two of these together. So let's put a sub bass under that. Sub bass is what you hear when a bunch of teenagers' cars are driving by. But they are useful to fill out the low end. Like, I use them as like a magical sub. Just like, it's a bonus for people that have big speakers, that they'll feel this and they'll feel that the bass is deep. And unless you just like muted everything except it, you probably wouldn't know that it was there. But it just kind of sits under there and fills stuff out. So let's see. Okay, so I think that works. Other synths that I like for basses, I really like Monarch that comes with Native Instruments Complete. It even comes with Complete Standard. That's really good for basses. Massive that comes with Native Instruments Complete. Massive is really good for basses. Omnisphere has a couple of good basses, but it's not my favorite for basses. Omnisphere I actually like for ambient sounds and drones and stuff, which may be cool in the next part. I'm trying to figure out how to transition into this next part. Because something kind of needs to stay the same. Maybe they use Armageddon Ensemble sticks. almost wish you could tell Logic, and you may be able to, but I would like to tell it to not actually join my tracks together, because I kind of actually want to have these things separate sometimes. Okay, and then the second loop, it needs to do something different. Okay, now we need a boom, but maybe a different kind of boom. Like, let's try out what we had. So that's too big. That was really more of an accompanying thing for the taikos. So we were using drums of war earlier. I think that works, but I want to try one more that I like, that I tend to overuse in my tracks, but let's experiment between these two. So now let's try that drums of war boom again. Okay. It's the drums of war boom. I might as well just turn that Albion Easter Island boom off, because I don't believe I'm going to use it. Okay. Maybe clean that up and make it just meet there. Yeah. So okay, so I was talking about drones a minute ago. Drones are these kind of spooky atmospheric sounds, or uplifting atmospheric sounds, that are just kind of long synthetic notes that are usually made by stretching something out. Let's listen to a few of these presets that I just so happen to have in here, though Omnisphere is my favorite thing to do this with. I don't know if that's right or not. Nah, too horror movie-ish. And I imagine Zombie Wind is going to be the same thing. Too much sound on that one. I don't want just too thick of a sound. What is Cry for Help? I can already tell that's too thick. Dark Breath, actually this sounds like something that may work. Probably too thick, but let me try it. That almost works, but not quite. I've actually, in my main template, I've actually added an instance of Omnisphere to this drone thing. Another synth I like to use a lot, almost equally to Omnisphere for this, is if you have Native Instruments Complete Absinthe 5, is excellent at doing these types of sounds. The interface is complicated to work, but it can do these types of sounds really well, and it kind of has a different, almost sort of a lo-fi sort of vibe to it. Omnisphere is actually another thing that's hosted directly on my computer. Most of my synthesizers are hosted on my computer, my sampler stuff. The difference being a sampler is kind of like recordings of an instrument that are played back with a keyboard, and a synthesizer is it uses pure waves to construct sounds out of electronics. Let's call this Omni Drone. And let's give it a little logo. For sample-based instruments, or Omnisphere uses a lot of samples with synthesis, so I kind of consider it a sample-based instrument. I tend to use the red keyboard. Kind of looks like a Nord. For anything I'm doing a synth bass on, I tend to grab this Moog-looking one. And for general synthesizers, your pads, your leads, your little melodic blips, I tend to grab this little keyboard. It's just stuff to keep it organized. Okay, so in Omnisphere, they tend to call these types of sounds playable textures. So, and I have some that I have highly rated, so let's kind of go through here and... Cool thing about Omnisphere is you can search sounds by mood. Like I could search dark and get a bunch of dark soundscapes. Do I have any that I've given more than 3 stars? Primordial Humans. It's almost too thick, but it's cool. But I know some techniques for working with a sound that's too thick. You can actually just kind of EQ out some of the frequencies you don't want, or you can simply turn it down. Sometimes just turning it down works. Let's turn it down to about -6. Let's see. Alright, so that's sort of cool. I'm going to go ahead and move my loop points over here. And I'm going to, with synthetic stuff, I normally tend to just program the stuff in. For like a drone like this, I just kind of find my note on the keyboard. I tend to do these in like octave 2. And then I save my basses for octave 1 under it. And I just kind of like shrink it down and drag the note the whole way. because all these are, they're just one long note. Alright, let's do some tricks to this. So, I tend to like doing a few things. For one, like I like to just take the tremolo in Logic. I just use the stock one. I have a preset saved for this because I do it all the time, but all I did is I went and set the phase to 0. And I'm just going to set like a volume up, volume swells down kind of wave with it. I actually have a preset saved with like my sub bass doing this same effect, but I actually don't have it for the synth. And then what's also cool to do with this sound is just run it through an unbelievable amount of reverb. Like there are some like effects like Big Hall. It's a sound that you don't necessarily know it's there, but you miss it when it's gone. Okay, so I was talking about my synth bass being set up with, or my sub bass being set up with this sort of sound. that was a notification from Instagram. I just got another Instagram page too, so feel free to follow me if you would like. It's instagram.com/Russo_music, I think. Okay, cool. Alright, cool. Same kind of thing with the synth bass when I'm creating ambient stuff. I really see no reason in playing this stuff in, because it's just one long note, and it's kind of synthetic stuff anyway. It's not going to sound any different. In fact, it might sound worse, because I might get the timing off and stuff, and all the tempos synced, kind of like moving and swelling in and out will kind of get messed up if I misplay it. So I found programming this kind of stuff is the best way to go. Alright, cool. So now I want to listen to the previous section going into this and see if something sounds like it's missing. It almost sounds like to me it needs some high-end information of some kind. I have an idea. Maybe even some noisy stuff. I'm going kind of... In this section, it's getting kind of Trent Reznor-y. It's getting kind of like the Social Network soundtrack. Or a Nine Inch Nails song. Let's find an Omnisphere drone that's like higher. There's this other category of drones in here called Noisescapes that are kind of neat. That is way too much. That is way too much. Maybe that. Yes, I posted the new YouTube video. I wonder if I could like slow that down, because that would be kind of cool if it was slower. What is this patch? Apparently it's an audio recording called Dive Mask. It's probably some underwater stuff. Wonder if it's modulated by this LFO. Maybe something like... Maybe this would be a good time to bring in some kind of like synth percussion. Like, okay, Logic users, if you're not using Ultra Beat, you're missing out on what might quite possibly be the best synthetic drum creator you have. So I've made these hi-hats that I use all over the place, like synthetic hi-hats, like drum machine hi-hats. They're just white noise. They're like TV static, but like you can go into these envelopes and you can like adjust like their length. Like 820 is the stock one. Like if it's and you can, like, later on add delay and distortion to these, and you can make some really interesting sounds. And you can also use something like Battery, or if you're just stuck in Logic, just EXS24. And you can layer in kind of like some just normal hi-hat, acoustic drum hi-hat sounds with it, and you can make some really cool sounding hi-hat. I'll go ahead and put some delay on this, because I actually like to do delay stuff with these kind of sounds. It's kind of similar to like delay with electric guitar. And I usually program this in as well. Gotta make the grid a little bigger though. This isn't like the drones. I'm actually gonna have to write in 16th notes. And that's what happens when you program a drum right after you programmed a drone. You have this like giant. Sorry if this is like, I imagine some people think this part's boring and some people think this is exciting. So if you think it's boring, we'll be back to acoustic style instruments in a minute. If you think this is exciting, I do too. So let's try out that rhythm for a bit. We'll probably make it more complex as it repeats, but... closed hi-hats, I'm actually going to double these with a little bit of kind of acoustic hi-hat sound. Since I'm a Logic user, I actually prefer using battery for my one-shot drum samples, like one-shot meaning just if one recording of a drum, like you would do in electronic music or sound design or something. And some audio drum samples that I love, definitely support this company. That Sound drum samples, a company out of Nashville, they make really cool stuff. This is their pack called Elements. I think that'll work. So. Okay, so the next thing I'll need to do is I'll need to just start building the track back up from there. But I think we will do that another time, and we will call it a day for this song today. So I will end by playing the whole thing together. And I will say that this part that I added, I may keep it or I may not. I do this all the time when I'm just kind of writing something. I will spend a day on making a thing, and then the next day I'll come in and be like, that's not right, and like I'll completely change it. So yeah, don't get too attached to it because it may go away, but right now I like it. Okay. The only thing I heard in that I'm a little iffy about is that timpani roll with the cymbal. I'm not sure if I like that, but I guess it'll stay for now. And thanks for watching. I'm gonna save this and be done with it for the day.